a carpet to last a luxurious lifetime. Yes, it's carpet luxury from Lyle. Ask for the new Lyle Legend in 9 modern, colourful designs. Made in Scotland.
Where am I?
Once Upon a Time was first broadcast in January 1968. This episode was actually filmed much earlier in the series and marked by McGoohan to be the lead-in to the last show. It was written and directed by Pat and once again featured Leo McKern as the returning number 2. In Japan, the title was The Final Confrontation. McGoohan stated, "It's a little autobiographical. It's always nice to get that stuff out of your system." It was this tremendous two-handed conflict to the death between protagonists. One of them had to die. In the end, it was poor old Leo. I decided to bring him back to life in the last episode. I thought Leo was great. McGoohan's unparsimonious script deals with the 7 ages of man. Pat wrote the whole dialogue in a quick burst, sometimes referred to as a stream of consciousness. This can offer significant psychological and emotional benefits, especially when it comes to accessing and expressing buried inner thoughts. Writing quickly, you often bypass the inner critic or editor. Fast, uninterrupted writing often taps into the unconscious or emotional brain, rather than the logical, structured mind.
I said to Pat, I said, "Here, who's this lunatic Schwartz?" I said to him. And he laughed, he replied to me, and he said, "Oh, she wrote Schwartz, don't you know him?" I said, "No, I never heard tell of him." I said, "Who is he?" I said, "He should be locked up in Shenley." He laughed and walked away from me. I didn't realise he was the author of it. I'd have probably said to him anyway.
The last 2 shows really give us an insight into McGoohan's mind and just how personal Number 6 was to the real man. McGoohan's long working hours on The Prisoner were also a worry with the crew. Tina Davis, who was production secretary, stated, "With Patrick working so hard on it, everyone was worried what would happen to the series if anything happened to him." Camera operator Jack Loyne recalled, "Pat would arrive in the morning and he'd have 3 pages of script. That was the day's script he'd just written and nobody had seen it before. No one could learn the lines or knew what they were doing or how they were going to do it." However, the crew's concerns over Pat's long hours and heavy drinking were overshadowed by even more dramatic events. Bernie Williams, production manager, recalled, "Leo got into a serious heart problem. It was so intense that we had to stop filming, and we had to get Leo off the set before he had a heart attack."
Episode 16 was actually episode 6. And it amazes me, having just run the series once again, how episode 6 falls into the last show, and yet we were 7 months away from that. Leo McKern got into a serious heart problem. I mean, it got that intense that we had to stop filming, and we had to get Leo off the set before he had a heart attack.
David Tomlin stated, "Leo was amazing. It really was a battle, and I have the greatest admiration for him. He's a fine actor, and he really hung in there. Patrick's a tough man, and once he starts putting the pressure on like that, to live with it, you've got to be quite a person."
Oh yes, it's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing two-hander. I mean, that was Patrick's baby, you know. I mean, he wrote that, he did everything on it, and Leo was amazing. I mean, it was really a battle. I have the greatest admiration for Leo McKern. I think he's a fine actor, and I mean, he really hung in there. And I mean, Patrick is a tough man. And once you start sort of putting the pressure on in a situation like that, to live with it, you're going to be quite a person.
Tony Sloman stated, "I don't know if Leo had a breakdown, but certainly he was not in a fit state after that episode. It was very difficult." Leo McKern stated, "Pat was impossible to work with, a dreadful bully, always shouting and screaming and yelling about the place, hurrying up to no doubt save money." However, later on in his career, he stated, "Oh, don't mention that. I was demented. I used to lie in my dressing room and worry. The person inside is very withdrawn and quiet. And certainly when one is shouted at, it doesn't inspire one to do anything except withdraw into oneself, which I did a great deal of. With Pat, we're quite a close personal relationship, respected and worked well together.
Always shouting and screaming and yelling about the place and hurrying up and saving money. I used to lie in my dressing room mainly. In the short times we had off, and worry and be depressed and very silent. That was great fun, I must say.
Well, that was very interesting, that one, because you said, which was my favorite episode earlier on, Warner. That was probably it. That was one that was written in the 36-hour period. And Leo McKern, who is a good friend of mine, a fine actor, I think, came in at short notice to do it. And it was mainly a two-hander, a brainwashing thing. He was trying to brainwash me, and in the end, number 6 turns the tables. And the dialogue was so peculiar because all it consisted of mainly was 6, 6, 6, and 5 pages of that at one time. And Leo, one lunchtime, went up to his dressing room, and I went to see the rushes. And I knew he was tired. I went up to the dressing room to tell him how good I thought he'd been in the rushes. And he was coiled up in the fetus position on his couch there. And he says, go away, go away. He says, I don't want to see you again. I said, what are you talking about? He says, I've just ordered 2 doctors, he said, and they're coming over as soon as possible. He says, go away. And he'd ordered 2 doctors. And they came over that afternoon, and he didn't work for 3 days. He'd gone. He cracked, which was very interesting. It was terrific pressure, you see. And so I had to use a double the back of a guy for a lot of the shots. And eventually Leo did come back, and we completed it. And also he was in the final episode, so he forgave me for everything. But he did crack. It was interesting.
At its core, Once Upon a Time is a deliberate homage to William Shakespeare's As You Like It. Specifically the 7 Ages of Man monologue, where Jacques muses on the stages of human life, from the mewling and puking infant to the second childishness of old age. In the episode, number 2 subjects number 6 to degree absolute, a psychological experiment designed to break him by regressing him through these stages. The process is not merely a plot device, but a profound allegory for the cyclical nature of human existence and the eternal quest for self-definition. Yet this structure is more than a literary nod. It's also a metaphysical inquiry. Shakespeare's monologue suggests life as a scripted performance, each stage predetermined by fate or society. However, the prisoner subverts this by placing number 6 in a scenario where he refuses the script. The village, a microcosm of authoritarian control, wants him to play an assigned role, but number 6 resists, asserting his individuality at every turn. This tension mirrors McGoohan's own philosophy as both creator and star, that the individual must defy systems that seek to define or confine them. Before his acting career, he worked briefly as a bank clerk in Sheffield, a somewhat stifling environment that likely informed his disdain for bureaucratic systems. In Once Upon a Time, the village's relentless interrogation of number 6 echoes McGoohan's own encounters with institutions that demanded compliance, whether the bank, the entertainment industry, or societal norms. In Once Upon a Time, the embryo room amplifies this metaphor, a womb-like space where number 6 is forced to confront his origins and essence. This setting suggests that the true battle for freedom occurs within the mind, where our fears and memories and desires can trap us effectively as any external force. Number 2's use of degree absolute, a high-stakes psychological duel, underscores this idea. By regressing number 6 through his life stages, number 2 seeks to unearth the why of his resignation, but the process reveals more about the human condition than any specific answer. The villager's obsession with breaking number 6 reflects society's need to control the nonconformist. to reduce the individual to a predictable, manageable unit. Yet number 6's refusal to break his mantra is a clarion call for self-ownership, a rejection of the labels and roles imposed by others. This allegory resonates with Jungian psychology, particularly the concept of the shadow. Number 2 as 6's adversary can be seen as his shadow self, the part of him that might succumb to despair, compromise, or conformity. The episode's intense, almost theatrical dialogue, with number 2 taunting and number 6 retorting, feels like an internal dialogue between the ego and its darker impulses. By surviving degree absolute, number 6 integrates his shadow, emerging not broken, but whole. Indeed, a testament to the power of self-awareness.
It was 8 days shooting, and for most of those 8 days, we were head-to-head on from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6:30 at night, with an hour for lunch. So it was pretty intense. It was psychiatrist couch time sort of thing, you know.
Our episode begins at the Green Dome, residence of number 2, and here we see the butler, as played by Angelo Muscat, wheeling in that morning's breakfast. Incidentally, that trolley is one of the few remaining props from the whole series. The butler awakens the giant screen, and here we see number 2's chair occupied by Rover, the part mechanical and organic security to the village. I like the pulsating quality of the balloon, as though it's actually alive and observing the room. Like clockwork, the butler lays out number 2's breakfast with precision, then rings the bell to beckon number 2 into the room. Leo McKern's character is brought up from the bowels of the village, sporting a decidedly preoccupied expression. After looking at Rover with slight disdain, he angrily orders the butler to remove the food. We surmise that Rover is there to keep an omnipresent eye over number 2, giving his defiant request to number 1 to have it removed. In between his terse call to number 1, he bellows at the butler, giving Angelo a little surprise if his reaction's anything to go by. Number 2 checks the screen, which shows 6 anxiously pacing around his room. 2 shouts at the screen, "Why do you care?" He then calls number 6 to ask the same question. 6's answer is simply,
Why do you care? You'll never know.
Incidentally, the large pool was green and then changed to blue. Perhaps it looks cleaner and more striking on film. This nervous villager here is John Casabon, who had appeared in Free for All, as well as 4 episodes of Danger Man. We can see by his worried demeanour that he's definitely an inmate. With number 6's questions, we can also appreciate this dialogue being written earlier on in the Prisoner's production. It's doubtful that after 6 had been there for some time, that he'd even bother asking such direct questions, of which he would know there wouldn't be any answers. Back at the Green Dome, number 2's having a perusal through 6's past exploits, no doubt gathering information, ready for his next move. Side note, the shot of 6 holding up the newspaper and angrily barking out his questions was a different take to the one in Free for All. This was actually the better take with regards to McGoohan's clearer dialogue.
Is this how they started to break you? Is this how they tried to break you? Before you gave them what they were after? Till they got what they were after?
Number 2, after looking through more footage of 6, calls number 1 to demand the final test to break 6 into submission. Degree absolute. It's interesting to hear number 2 state he was a good man. This gives the viewer insight into the powers that be in the village. Knowing what they are part of is malevolent. Degree absolute is permitted, but within a strict timescale of 1 week. After that, only he or 6 will leave the embryo room. 2 enters the observation room and informs the controller of his plan. After wishing to check number 2's order, the controller quickly acquiesces to his superior and makes ready for the night's mission. When the camera operators leave the room, someone forgot to tell this woman, "Look serious." Number 2 mans the controls and with the supervisor's help delivers some electronic pulses into 6's brain. This is to put 6 into a deep hypnosis, ready to be manipulated. The nursery rhymes used by number 2 would have been chosen specifically by McGoohan. Humpty Dumpty is often seen as a symbol of a powerful figure or institution that appears strong but is inherently fragile. Jack and Jill can represent the ascent and descent of the arc of life. Youthful ambition followed by decline and mortality. Jack's broken crown and Jill's tumble evoke physical or existential falls, emphasizing life's fragility and the inevitability of failure and death. The grand old Duke of York represents actions that are futile and achieve nothing. Number 2 lays out over the chair, looking thoroughly exhausted, with a shot reminiscent from the iconic intro. This time, number 2 looks out onto the early morning village. He pulls the lamp away from Six's face and asks, "Do you want to go walkies?" Although this line is more akin to something you'd say to your dog, number 6 rises like a small child, fully regressed and cheerful in expression. McGoohan's childlike manner is amusing to watch, and with number 2 now representing his father, he's quietly cajoled into action with the word walkies. Just looking at these later outdoor shots of the village, I can't help thinking how abandoned Portmeirion looks. From the bustling and busy scenes in Arrival to the almost vacant and dour shots here. If the series had been blessed with more time and money, perhaps Portmeirion's fascinating background would have given later episodes the same exuberant spirit. Back at the Green Dome, number 6 in his childlike state is wheeled down towards 2's desk. 2 then beckons 6 to join him as the two are taken underground and into the embryo room, a room described as being covered in black velvet. The doors open to reveal numerous props and toys scattered around the room, with the butler stood inside a cot with a child shaker. There is also a cage room made out to look like a home, and a giant clock ready for number 2 to start its countdown. 2 dispassionately tells 6 to follow him, whilst quoting Shakespeare's play, As You Like It, The 7 Ages of Man, Act 2, Scene 7.
Is Act B 7 ages?
The slick glasses may metaphorically represent the limited perspective imposed by authority, contrasting with number 6's broader, defiant individuality. Number 2 informs 6, who's now shaking a mini rover, or egg, of his intention to find the missing link, then put it all together. Failure means bang, or nuclear explosion. McGoohan's character through the episode is seen to stare up to an almost blinding light. Perhaps it's something that's relaying information, or it could represent the blinding white light many Buddhists and Christians teach, where the deceased are encouraged to recognize this light and go and merge with it. 2 now acting as 6's father, asks if he ever says anything that would make his son hate him. 6 thinks about this question, but offers no answer, as he's led into an imaginary park. After 2 offering up that he always speaks highly of his mother, 6's eyes drawn towards the seesaw. Fumbling and crashing to the floor, the childlike 6 doesn't yet understand. The rhyme can be read as a commentary on the exploitation of the working class. Jackie, working for a penny a day because he can work no faster, reflects the harsh realities of low-wage labour, particularly during the Industrial Revolution. Marjorie Daw, possibly standing for societal or economic systems, presides over this cycle of toil, with a seesaw symbolising uneven balance of power between workers and employers. With 2 and 6 exchanging the words, Jackie, then master. At the mention of father, 6 jumps from the seesaw, leaving 2 to crash to the floor. 6 eases back into playful-like manner by repeating the words brother and friends.
One of the things that is frustrating about making a piece of entertainment is trying to make it appeal to everybody. I think this is fatal. I don't think you can do that. It's done a great deal. You know, we have our horror movies and we have our science fiction things. Mm-hmm. The best works are those that somebody says we want to do something this way, and do it, not because they're aiming at a particular audience. They're doing it because it's a story they think is important, and it's a statement that they want to make. And they do it, and then whoever wants to watch it, that's their privilege. I mean, the paintings in an art gallery, you know, you have a choice whether you go and look at this one or that one or the other one. You have a choice not even to go in.
Our next act are Six's school days, and when Angelo's reaching for the relevant props, we can see the suede clothes worn by McGoohan in Living in Harmony, and the red jacket worn by Canna in the same episode. Leo McKern's character now takes on the role of schoolmaster, now sporting the same blinker glasses as seen on the buckler. Six is sternly told to report to the master's office, followed by an even sterner look of defiance from the young in mind, number 6.
Society. Yes. Society is a place where people exist together. Yes. That is civilization. Yes.
I think these scenes will bring back a lot of painful memories for British kids of a certain age. Megalomaniac teachers, corporal punishment for the slightest infringement of the rules, and we had the dreaded nuns, or God's Rottweilers, as I call them. I was whacked over my knuckles for writing left-handed by teachers who'd just been lecturing about Jesus, an absolute insane asylum. Only one teacher over 10 years said anything of use to me, and it was this: every one of you in this class has the power to be anything you choose. A rare moment of positivity and encouragement. Again, we see the blinding white light as Six enters the master's office. We hear the familiar script throughout the series, with Six being accused and then asked to give up information. 2 states that's cowardice, while 6 replies that's honour. These laconic lines perfectly sum up the way teachers could, and would, try to twist your words around to bolster their inane arguments and accusations. I love this dialogue here between McKern and McGoohan.
You must conform. Yes. It is my sworn duty to see that you do conform. Yes.
Number 6's graduation day sees number 2 given the usual meaningless speech, and after asking 6 what he'd like to say, he's surprised to hear, "Nothing, sir." The headmaster tells 6 he's proud that he's learnt to manage his rebellious spirit, which is nonsense, and then slips into the familiar question, why did he resign? 6 now looks perturbed as this most probing question is repeated by number 2, his questioning turning into interrogation.
Yes.
State secret, sir.
Don't state secret, confidential. Why did you resign?
With 2's incessant quizzing, 6 loses his temper and punches 2 to the floor. 6 tries to strangle his opponent until the buckler comes to his aid and knocks 6 out. McGoohan's character is dragged onto the table, and once again the use of electronic pulse manipulates his brain.
To say, if you have any time, come in for God's sake and watch this prayer. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch. It was real.
While the buckler appears complicit, his ambiguity leaves room for a subversive interpretation. In The Prisoner, nothing is as it seems, and the buckler's silence could mask a deeper intent. Some fans speculate he might be a secret ally to number 6, a theory supported by his survival of degree absolute and fallout. The buckler can represent humanity's universal complicity in systems of control. His silence and servitude reflect the Seven Ages theme of life as a scripted performance, where individuals often play roles without questioning their purpose. Angelo said, "I'm so grateful to Patrick McGoohan. He's given me responsibility for the first time in my life. I'm playing an important part in a big series. I'm something for the first time ever. I could hardly believe it when he chose me, and I've always been a fan of his and never missed a Danger Man show." Number 2, portrayed with theatrical intensity by Leo McKern, is not merely a villain, but a mirror for number 6. His desperation to break number 6 reflects on his own imprisonment within the village's system. In Once Upon a Time, number 2's psychological collapse, culminating in his death, from exhaustion, underscores the cost of serving a dehumanizing system. He is both perpetrator and victim, a cautionary tale of what Number 6 could become if he surrendered. This dynamic evokes Nietzsche's concept of the will to power, where the struggle for dominance is also a struggle for self-mastery. Number 2 seeks to dominate Number 6, but his failure reveals that true power lies in self-possession and not control over others. McKern's performance, reportedly so intense that he suffered a nervous breakdown, mirrors McGoohan's own emotional investment, blurring the line between actor and character. This meta layer adds to the episode's depth, suggesting that the battle for identity is as real for the creators as the characters. McGoohan's character is then regressed back to his childhood, where a few crew members who saw the script scratched their head in bewilderment. Under 2's interrogation, 6 is unyielding as he sings Pop Goes the Weasel, a tune used throughout the series. The word pop being used just once in the credits for the chimes of Big Ben, pop signifying the destruction of the world by nuclear bombs. For these boxing scenes, of which McGoohan had enjoyed in his youth, quite a few lines were added, not in the original script, and Leo also recalled that McGoohan had punched him for real. In the sword fencing scene, McKern's character was here to have said, "Kill me, and you're mine, the heart is a little to the left." We cut to Number 6 shaving and getting ready for a job interview. McKern's character now takes on the role of a bank manager, and indeed McGoohan had worked as a bank clerk in Curzon Street in Sheffield. Number 2 asks 6 why he wants this most respected job, and 6 simply answers, "It's a job." He's then harassed by 2 into why he has no interest in this role, until 6 states, "It's just the way I'm made," as 2 tries to push him into meeting the big boss, the managing director. 6 pushes him away to play on the tractor. He then finds himself in another office, and I like this simple exchange between the two.
I'd like a job. You have it. Thank you.
McKern's adopted character then becomes a line manager in the intelligence service, as we see something of 6's initiation into the organisation. Other original lines were when offered the job, 6 says, "This is very sudden, sir," with Number 2 replying, "Not at all, you have the highest recommendation from a good colleague of ours." 6 is then arrested by our buckler turned constable and put through the court system, with Number 2 now playing a judge. 6 is led to believe he caused an accident through dangerous driving whilst on a mission, so he can't elaborate any further. Due to the judge's questions, 6 seems disorientated and close to breaking. The judge finds him 20 units rather than pounds, and that stirs 6 on to answer, "Units are not for me." The judge firmly states, "You are a member of the village."
You are a member of the village. Now!
6 is then dragged into what he believes is a prison, as Number 2 leaves the shot. The next scene shows McKern's character receiving a massage from the buckler, a sign he's overwhelmed and worn out by prior proceedings. He drags himself to the cage room, now looking unsure of himself and searching for answers. The two taunt each other, and it's now clear to see that 6's psyche has been growing in confidence, whilst 2 has been mentally damaged and is now in a far less confident state of mind. 6 can now mock 2 and lead the exchange, whilst 2 is clearly on the defensive and showing doubt, anger and paranoia. With Number 2 now armed with a knife, 6 mocks him while laying on the floor in handcuffs. Number 2 accuses 6 that he killed in the war, and 6 replies he killed for peace. 2 is now sweating heavy, dishevelled, and looks more and more disorientated. The two are then acting out being in a Lancaster bomber over Germany, and although 2 is trying to get our protagonist into repeating number 6, this number throughout the episode has been something our agent is loath to repeat. Apparently the plane is hit by flak and the two quickly bail out. This leads 6 to being held as a prisoner, where Number 2 now plays the part of a German officer. The German lines here are, "You're 19 years old. You're thirsty for glory. You kill without thinking. You've dropped many bombs. Shameless. Number 6 was originally going to say, it's my duty. Number 2 replies, to destroy us? 6 answers, you are the enemy. Choosing his moment, number 2 draws the questions back to, why did he resign? 6 now has a much more relaxed and almost nonchalant attitude, as 2 now looks worried, perplexed, and desperate. With 2 now laid out and trying to catch his breath, 6 stands over him and says, you chose this method because you knew the only way to beat me was to gain respect. 6 is now totally dominant, having won the psychic battle of attrition, turning the table on his adversary and now almost playing with the soon-to-be deceased number 2. McKern's character tells 6 they're in the embryo room, where one can relive everything from the cradle to the grave. Shakespeare's 7 Ages of Man is quoted, with 6's line, last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. After showing 6 the steel doors that traps them both to the bitter end, he notices the clock has just 5 minutes left before only one of them leaves. Apart from his rapidly failing health, number 2 is now worse for drink and shows off the mobile home's amenities, of which 6 now knows he has a way to escape, complete with 6 months' worth of food.
It moves. It's detachable. What's behind it? Steel.
6 now has 2 firmly behind bars, and we immediately see the butler change his allegiance to his new boss. With the clock now running down, 6 shows number 2 how powerful and confident he is by unlocking the cage and standing over 2 until his pitiful and disorientated demise. 6 leans down to check that 2 is dead, and as the camera pans to McGoohan's face, we can see a slight look of pity that quickly turns to, I've done it, I've won. With 2 once again locked up, the steel doors open and the controller steps forward. He tells 6 congratulations, and we shall need the body for evidence. 6 smashes his glass onto the floor, no doubt angered by the controller's same old adherence to rules and regulations. Peter's character asks 6 what he desires, and he replies,
Number 1.
I'll take you.
In the original script, the camera pans across the room, and instead of hearing the music box sounds of Twinkle Little Star, the viewer hears the loud growing sound of a rocket launching.
They became the part. And I thought, oh my God, this is episode 6. I hope it's not going to get worse because I can't bear this. I don't want actors being taken off sets having heart attacks. and it was intense, and maybe that's why Pat chose that particular show to be the prequel to the ending, you know?
What can Once Upon a Time teach us today in a world of digital surveillance, algorithmic control, and fractured identities? The episode's allegories are strikingly prescient. The Villager's panopticon mirrors our data-driven society, where social media, governments, and corporations track our every move. The pressure to conform, to fit into predefined roles of consumer, employee, or citizen, echoes the Villager's demand for number 6's submission. Yet the episode offers hope through its celebration of individual resilience. Once Upon a Time reminds us that self-awareness is our greatest weapon. By confronting his life stages, number 6 gains clarity about who he is and what he stands for. In our world, this translates to mindfulness, reflecting on our values, questioning the narratives we're fed, and resisting the urge to conform blindly. Whether it's rejecting social media trends or challenging workplace cultures that stifle creativity, we can emulate number 6's defiance by defining ourselves on our own terms. Freedom is an internal state. While external systems may constrain us, true freedom lies in our ability to choose our response. In a world where algorithms predict our behavior and surveillance limits our privacy, cultivating an inner sense of autonomy and critical thinking, empowers us to live with authenticity. Once Upon a Time is more than an episode. It's a philosophical manifesto, a call to arms for the individual soul. Through its Shakespearean structure, it explores the cyclical nature of life and the constant battle to remain oneself. Through McGoohan's autobiographical lens, it grounds these universal themes in a deeply human struggle, making Number Six's fight our own. And through its allegorical depth, it challenges us to confront the villages in our lives, external and internal, and to emerge like Number Six, unbroken. As we navigate the complexities of today, let Once Upon a Time inspire us to question, resist, and redefine. In a world that often feels like a village, where conformity is currency and surveillance is omnipresent, we can choose to not be a number, but a free person. By embracing our individuality, reflecting on our life stages, and standing firm in our values, we honour the legacy of the prisoner and its timeless cry.
I am not a number. I am a free man.